Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna do a comparison video of HO scale USRA light Mikados. From the left we have, this is Broadway Limited. It has Paragon sound, QSI sound, but I changed it out for a TCS WOWsound decoder. This middle one is MTH, has Proto Sound 3.0 and is discontinued. On the right we have an Athearn Genesis model, also discontinued. This one just has DC, so yeah. Alright, now a little history of the USRA Light Mikado. This engine was a USRA standard class of steam locomotive designed under World War I. Basically, during World War I, the government would only let railway companies purchase specific designs of engines instead of letting them make their own designs, and this was one of them that they could buy. In total, 625 of these were built during the USRA administration, and then later many different copies were made because this was such an efficient design. Now, a Mikado is a 282, which means there's one leading truck, there is 4 drivers, and then there's 1 trailing truck. These were designed for freight because they had smaller drivers, whereas the 462 design, Pacific, was designed for passenger. In total, over 50 railway companies purchased this type of engine, including New York Central and Baltimore, Ohio. New York Central had purchased 95, and Baltimore and Ohio purchased 100 of these engines. So they're quite common. The USRA also had a heavy Mikado over here, as you can see. The main differences being larger driver wheels and also a larger boiler. As you can see, this boiler is a lot thicker than this one over here, hence heavy Mikado. It generally had more horsepower, however, less railway companies purchased that engine, making it more rare. Alright, now a little bit about the models themselves. The Broadway Limited one retails for about $299, however you get on eBay for about $150. The MTH one retails for $399, and you could get them for about $250 on eBay, but they're very rare. And last but not least, Athearn Genesis ones, I think they retail for $199, I'm not really sure, but you can find them on eBay for about $60 to $70. They're pretty common. Alright, a little bit more about these engines. These two are die-cast, and this one's made of plastic. This one has QSI sound, however it doesn't sound that good, so I replaced it with TCS WOWsound. This one has Proto Sound 3.0, and it has smoke, and those are both very nice features. This one has MRC sound. I bought the DC version, but sometimes it comes with MRC sound. I don't like that personally either. It sounds pretty crappy. Yeah. All 3 have operating LED headlights, no backup lights. And the MTH one actually has a cab light, I believe. So, yeah. Alright, let's begin the detail portion of the video. We're going to start with the Athearn model, as you can see here. And I'd like to start by saying that the paint is very evenly applied, but it is a matte finish. So, where the other ones are like more of a satin finish, like slightly more glossy, this one's completely matte. We're going to zoom into the front of this engine right now. You'll see that there's quite a lot of detail. These are separately applied non-operating marker lights. There's a handrail right here that's separately applied, the headlight, the bell, which you can see right there. Right here we have a separately applied uncoupling lever. There's air hoses and brake hoses, as well as a dummy coupler. This does not operate. We also have a switching pilot, I believe this is what it's called, instead of a running pilot. I'm sorry, I don't really know that much stuff about it. It's like a yard pilot where where the crew can stand on it. And yeah, let's go into the side of the engine. Alright, now let's move down to the center of the engine. We're going to begin by saying that these 4 wheels are absolutely beautiful. The valve linkage and everything. The metal is not blackened, so it's shiny steel. There's some detail here. There's the air compressor. I'm not really sure what these do, I'll be honest. And you'll see that like this kind of stuff, these pipes, these are actually molded on. Unfortunately, the sand lines, the sand dome, this is the safety valves. These are all molded on. The only thing that's separately applied is this handrail, these things down here, as well as this piece here. These are separately applied. But everything above the running board is all molded on. This is also molded on, I believe, but this is separate. The bell's also separately applied. The user actually has to apply it. So when you first buy the engine, it comes with a bag of parts. So this comes with it, as well as the marker lights in the front, and the marker lights in the rear. Yeah, and also, yeah, this piece right here, the handrail, also is separately applied, which is kind of a pain. But once you do get the details on, it looks pretty nice. Now towards the back, we can see the cab with the separately. These are also the user has to apply these. The handrails, the trailing truck, which also looks very nice. There is no cruise in the cab. However, there is a backhead detail. It's kind of hard to see. Here, let me just get a better angle. Yeah, so there's some backhead detail. You'll also notice that the wires just kind of hang out, and this just gets kind of shoved into the tender. Yeah, so there's 8 wires, and there's a 9-pin DCC plug right here, so it's easy to add DCC to the engine. Yeah, I think that's it. Alright, so now onto the tender. It is a very nice tender. There's a drawbar with 2 holes, so to see, it depends on how close you want the tender to be connected to the engine. You want to use the hole farther away for a larger gap between the engine tender, so it could accommodate tighter curves, and this one back here for more prototypical look for larger curves. These grab irons. They actually are applied when you buy it. There's a fake coal load all molded on. This is pretty much all one piece. And yeah, there's some tread on here. Oh yeah, there's also tread on the running boards of the engine. I forgot to tell you that. And yeah, there's also I believe this is a derailment kit. Basically, if the engine derails, this is like a little kit with like tools that can re-rail the engine, which is pretty cool. The other engines do not have this on the tender. Looking on the back of the tender, we'll see a KD coupler that I added myself. There is a plastic handrail, as well as marker lights, which you have to apply yourself. There's also a water fill hatch, and obviously there's a uncoupling lever back here, which also moves, however does not work. Looking at the bottom of the engine, we can see actually there's a brake detail. This is the brake rigging for the brake shoes for each of the wheels. The rear truck is sprung, as is the front truck, so it's actually very nice. It is a very nice runner, if the gear problem is dealt with. Again, I'll get that in the really end. For the tender, you'll notice that these wheels actually don't pick up power. In fact, the only power that comes from the track that's picked up is these 4-driver wheels, which is kind of unfortunate. That means that if you have dirty track, it might not run as well. However, the tender does have some very nice details. You can see there's braking, coupler, the coupler, the pipe, brake, yeah, brake lines, and then this drawbar is also sprung right there. Alright, up next we have the MTH model. Also, I'll begin to say that the paint is also very nice. It is, as you see, a little more gloss finished because you can see the light reflecting off it. Yeah, the detail, I'd say the printing is a bit better than the Athearn model. I mean, it is newer. As also you can see like the number plate, which is also there. It's present. It's not missing on the it's missing on the Athearn model. But yeah, so let's get started with the front of the engine. As you can see here, we have operating marker lights, which is actually really impressive. These do light up when the engine's in motion. The headlight obviously works. Also uncoupling lever with these little flag stands. Actually, you can put little flags that stick out of here. There is an operating knuckle coupler here in the front. I put a Athearn McHenry coupler because I think it looks a little more realistic. Yeah, and also we have another switching pilot, which is again where people can stand on that. Yeah. Oh, also a little swinging bell at the top. It doesn't swing automatically, but it does move if you put your hand on it. Moving on to the side of the engine, we have 4 wheels. As you can see, the metal is blackened, so it is a darker shade. I forgot to mention that actually all 3 engines have sprung drivers, which means that basically, you can see that you can push down and the wheels, basically each driver has springs on top, so for suspension. Apparently it makes it run better. I don't really see much difference, but yeah. Anyways, you'll see that all these details are actually separately applied. The air compressor and everything. This valve, they're all separately applied. They're separate components. They're not molded onto the engine. These sandpipes, however, are molded on. Back here, if you can see that. Yeah, again, all these are separately applied. Whereas on the Athearn one, this is molded in. I'm pretty sure this is separately applied. These valves are nicely painted red. I don't know if you can see that on top. yeah, they're red. Safety valves are gold, and those are also separately applied. The whistle, separately applied, also painted nice and gold. And yeah, I think that's it. Now towards the back of the engine, we got the cab. There are windows in this cab. They do not move. There's figures inside, as well as a full interior. There's these little shades, blinds, that kind of cover the setup for the cruise. There is a, I don't know what this is called again, I forgot, but basically it connects the cab floor to the tender. Also very nice detail. The trailing truck is very nice. Now you'll notice that this only has one single drawbar. There's not like 6 wires going to the tender. And if you actually look very closely, there's 2 separate wires on here, and they connect to the pin on the tender. Don't know if you can see that. Anyway, so there's 2 contacts on the tender, one on each side, and there's also 2 wires on left and right. So instead of having, you know, 6 wires, or 8 wires connecting the engine and tender, which looks really bad, you got this just one single drawbar, which is very nice because you know, looks a lot better. Looking at the top of the engine, these cab roof vents actually do open and close with your hand. Also want to mention that you just see all the details, dynamo and everything. It just looks very nice overall. Alright, now looking at the tender, you could see it's a lot better. It's actually a lot heavier because this tender is actually all die-cast. Whereas the other 2 engines, the tender is plastic on top and a die-cast chassis. This entire thing is metal, which is very nice. It gives a lot of weight, makes it feel a lot more premium. On top is a real coal load instead of the Athearn one, which is molded on. You know, grab irons. It's pretty basic. It's your average tender. There's nothing too much to it. To the front, yeah. There's a few toolboxes on top here, and nothing too special. No central lines. I have no clue what that stands for, but yeah, it's very nice. Looking at the back of the tender, we see a KD coupler. We see an uncoupling lever that does not operate. There's 2 marker lights. Again, these do light up, which is very nice. There's a ladder, more grab irons, the water fill hatch, which is up there. It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can increase it. Yeah, there you go. The water fill hatch right there. And yeah, that's pretty much a tender. Very simple, but very nice. Looking at the bottom of the tender, you'll see that there is a speaker grill for the sound to come out. All 8 wheels are powered actually, with 2 separate contacts per truck, which means that there is 8 wheels getting power as well as the 4 driver wheels, so 4 on each side, so total of 8. So in total, engine and tender, you get 16 contacts of the track, which is very, very nice. And yeah, I think that's pretty much what the tender. Also a little bit of brake detail. For the engine, I'm not going to flip it upside down because I do have smoke fluid in the smoke unit, so if I flip it upside down, the smoke fluid will come all out. I'm not going to do that. However, if we take a look at the bottom, you also see all the brake rigging down here. Also very nice. There is traction tires on the 3rd driver. You can choose to have them or have them without. I have them on because this engine's pretty light for its size. It's actually it's not really balanced. The back is heavier than the front, and so it kind of runs poorly, so that's why I have the traction tires on. Besides that, the trailing truck and lead truck are both sprung. However, moving over to the bottom of the engine, I'm not going to tip this over because I do have smoke fluid inside the smoke unit, so if I do flip it over at the smoke unit, smoke fluid will come all out and it's going to be a real pain to clean. So I'm just going to kind of hold it for you guys. So as I said, all 4 wheels pick up power. There's some nice brake rigging. Don't know if you can see that. There you go, nice brake rigging. Both the rear truck and the front truck are sprung. However, I did lose a spring for the front truck because it's kind of loose like this. But rest assured, when you do buy it, it is sprung, so it's very nice. Besides that, I think that's really it. There's not that too much to it. There is traction tires on the 3rd wheel because this engine is kind of off balance. The back is heavier than the front, which is common because this engine's boiler is so thin, so small that it's hard to fit all this weight into the engine. But MTH did a terrific job making this engine as heavy as possible because everything here is die-cast, including the cab, I believe. So yeah. Alright, and finally we got the Broadway Limited engine here. This paint is equivalent to the MTH one, also a kind of satin finish, not really matte, not as matte as the Athearn one. There is no builder's plate, however. The printing is very crisp. I don't know if you can see that. We'll get there closer when we get to take a closer look at the cab. But yeah, so let's start out with the front of the engine. On the top we got a swinging bell, also kinda you gotta swing it with your finger, but it doesn't swing, you know, automatically. The marker lights do not operate. The headlight works. There is reading on the headlight. There's also a brake line, an operating coupler, and a non-operating uncoupler. Also brakes, these are also, there's the flag staffs on each side. And yeah, you'll see that this Pilot is a road Pilot, not a switcher Pilot, so you'll see that, you know, it's a more classic look to it. Moving to the side of the engine, we also have 4 wheels, very nice drivers. Also blackened, however you do not see the tires for the wheels. They are also painted black, whereas the MTH ones, these are not painted, the tires are not painted. These, the entire wheel is black. Also a lot of nice detail, however this and the sand lines and all the way back here, these are all molded on, so it's the equivalent of Athearn, honestly. All these are molded on, whereas everything underneath here, like this stuff, is separately applied, separately applied, separately applied. And yeah, however the whistle and the safety valves, these are actually brass, they're not plastic, and they're not molded on, they're separately applied. The dynamo is also very nice, and yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Pretty nice detail. The cab roof, also the vents also do open and close like that. And yeah, let's move on to the cab. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention about the wheels. Okay, Broadway Limited made a total of like, they've made many different versions of this engine. They made it first with the blue line, then they made it with Paragon sound, Paragon 2, and Paragon 3 sound. And I'm pretty sure they also had a Powerhouse line. So they've made many renditions of the engine. The newer ones have blackened drivers, however the previous ones will not have blackened drivers. And also the detail may be a little more sparse. As far as the cab goes, there is no windows for the cab. Again, I'm pretty sure the later renditions do have, but these don't. This is an older model. There is no cruise in the cab either, but there is back head detail. If you look there, there's also a 6-pin plug, 6 wires, 2 for the motor, 2 for the pickup, track pickup, and 2 for the headlight that go to the tender, which we'll see next. Oh, and one last note I forgot to mention. This is actually plastic. I lied. This is not die-cast. This is plastic, as well as the cab. And the tender shell is also plastic. So, yeah, just be warned. Alright, now for the tender. You'll see the plug right here. There is a drawbar. Now, this one came with 1 hole. I actually drilled the second hole out because I didn't like the spacing. The later models, as I said, Paragon 2 and Paragon 3, do have 2 holes. However, this Paragon version, which is older, only has 1. So I drilled the second one out. Paint's very nice, lettering's very nice. Coal is plastic and molded, so be aware of that. We got metal wheels, and let's move to the back of the tender. Alright, now for the back of the tender, we got a coupler, we have an uncoupler bar, we got a ladder. We do not have marker lights, which is interesting. There is a water fill hatch, which is actually a lot larger than the other ones. You'll see it spans the entire length of width of the tender. And yeah, not much to it. Again, no marker lights, which is kind of a shame, but oh well. Not all engines had marker lights, or at least not on the tender. Usually they're in the front. Alright, now if we look at the under frame, all 8 of the drivers pick up power, as well as these tender wheels. 2 of these pick up power and the other 2 pick up power. It's not all 8, it's only a total of 4 on the tender, which is not as good as the MTH, but still sufficient. The rear and front leader tracks are both sprung, which is nice, and the wheels are sprung. As I said, all 3 of them are sprung, which is very nice. And there is no brake rigging, however there are brake shoes on these things. But yeah, the brake rigging is the wire that goes past through them, all of them. That doesn't exist here, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, these are very nice pullers. The rear wheel has all these spokes, which I believe the MTH one also has, but the Athearn one does not. And yeah, I think that's it for the bottom. Oh, also there's brake detail on the tender, right there. Pretty nice. And yeah, you can see there's 2 speaker grills. There's 2 speakers here. MTH only has 1 speaker hole. So yeah. And the Athearn one does not have any place for a speaker. Alright, now let's do the running portion of this comparison. The MTH model has a smoke machine in the front of the engine and a motor in the back, so therefore it's kind of heavier toward the back, which makes it off balance, so it doesn't pull as many cars, if not for the traction tire, which makes it pull a lot. The Broadway Limited one, very heavy, so also pulls a very decent amount of cars. The Athearn one, being the lightest engine, pulls the least, also kind of old, so yeah, that pulls the least. Now, the note I've been talking about with the Athearn engine is that many of them have a cracked idler gear and driver gear issue. That means that the gear on the wheel and the gear of the axle and the gear that shifts that brings the power of the motor to the wheel, those 2 gears, which are made of plastic, a lot of them are cracked, and that just means that, well, it literally doesn't work. Many times, if you're gonna buy one, you run the risk of buying a bad engine, and then you're gonna have to go to Northwest Shoreline to buy replacement gears, which costs about, I think, $10 a piece, which is pretty expensive. I actually, when I bought the engine, because I bought it for so cheap, I bought it for like 50 bucks. I actually had to buy a separate driver gear to replace the cracked one, and so now it runs. Now it doesn't run that well, however, it does run. I think the motor's kind of faulty in that. But yeah, so when you buy these, just be aware. A lot of them are bad, so you might have to replace the gear. Otherwise, very nice runner. Alright, and now the part you've all been waiting for. We're going to run this engine. This is 4518. Alright, so again, this is TCS WOWsound, so I wouldn't take too much for the sound. If you want to know the sound of QSI engines, just search it up. It sounds like shit. Excuse my language. But let's just turn the sound off for now, and let's just see the slow speed of this engine. It's very smooth. As you can see, look at that. And obviously it can run fast. But yeah, it's completely silent. Now, for some reason reverse is a little louder, but yeah, in general, this thing is completely silent. And let's turn the sound back on. Turn the headlight on. But yeah, so it runs very nice. We're gonna take out the MTH model next. Alright, so this has your average Proto Sound 3.0 sound module. So let's start it up. See the headlight. Now it does flicker on the camera, however in real life it's perfectly still. There's also marker lights, as you can see there. Now these are actually white when you buy them. I painted them red because that's more realistic. White would signify an extra train, which wouldn't make any sense in this case because it's a Mikado. Anyway, so yeah, the marker lights do light up. The rear ones also do light up. I'll show that when it runs past. But yeah, so if we start the engine. You see the marker lights right there? Now, as I said, this thing does have smoke. I don't know if you can see that. It is actually synchronized with the puffing, which is very, very cool. But yeah, so this engine, I really like the sound of this engine. Yeah. Let's actually run it quiet. Just turning it off. Alright, so now there's no sound at all. We're gonna run it silently. Let's see, slow speed. Yeah, it's very nice, as you can see. And completely silent. So yeah, very nice engine also. And lastly, we're going to check out the Athearn engine. Now this one is DC, so keep in mind there's no sound. Yeah, so just be aware of that. Alright, and here's the Athearn engine on the track. We're going to turn it on. Oh, that's backwards. Let's try some slow speed operation. As you see, there is some sound. I'm pretty sure that's just the motor. I've heard that other people who own this engine, they say it runs also completely silent. I don't know what's wrong with this engine in particular, but yeah. I think it's because the motor's kind of broken. Not 100% sure though. I did replace the driver gear, so I know that's not the issue for a fact. But yeah, so that's the running of all three engines. Let's go back to the conclusion. An engine that's a good candidate because you know, if you're willing to you know, put your hands on it and try to, you know, modify and everything. It's a good engine because it's really cheap. It's only like $70, whereas these two are both over $100. But yeah, so this one 10 out of 10. This one, I mean 9.5 out of 10. It's missing the window glazing and a few small things like marker lights on the tender, but otherwise it's very nice. And the Athearn one, 6 or 7 out of 10. Again, the gear issue is very bad, but yeah, I mean as a result, it makes it really cheap. So yeah. Now, there are a few other things I want to mention. These are not the only manufacturers that make this kind of model. IHC, International Hobby Corp / Mahano, they made an engine like that. It's very toy-like. I would not recommend that. Rivarossi / AHM, they also made one. Also very toy-like and much worse than the IHC. Like, at least the IHC one runs. The Rivarossi HM one runs like crap. Bachmann made one. That one's okay, it's missing some stuff. Broadway Limited is about the same price and it's much better. You know, this engine's much better than that one. What else? Brass. I mean, you can always go brass, but these engines, I mean, they're everywhere. You don't need to get a brass engine for that. Oh, and also Trix / what was it? Marklin. Trix / Marklin. They also made one. That one's very nice, but it's even rarer than the MTH. I don't think you'll find them ever. Also runs very nice, but unfortunately I don't have one. But oh well. But yeah, if you have any other questions or comments, please comment down below or shoot me an email. My email should be in the description. Yeah, just these are very nice engines. Cool, yeah. Alright, so thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. This, however long this is, like 20 minutes, hopefully, under 20 minutes. Hope you enjoyed the time here. And yeah, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you want for more of these kind of videos. Although I've kind of been slacking off on the uploads. But yeah, so I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.
Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, walk